guys? Thanks for checking me out again. This time we've got She-Hulk, who has been near the top of my most wanted list for Bishoujo statues for a while now, so pretty happy that she's finished and in my possession. Quick look at the box. Very standard stuff, same stuff we always see. There's a little info about her. You can take a look at that if you want. There's a picture of Wasp. Wasp looks pretty good. It'll be interesting to see what her final version looks like. I don't know if they have a final sculpt and paint job for her just yet. We should see one around Comic-Con in a couple of months. Hopefully we'll see a whole bunch of good stuff at Comic-Con. So that'll be soon. So let's go ahead and crack her open, take a look, and get into it. Alright, so here she is, and they did a lot of fine-tuning with her after went from the illustration to the initial, the original sculpt and paint job to what they ended up with. And they've been doing this, you know, you go from a 2D drawing to a sculpture. There's bound to be some differences, but it seems like more than ever they're using Shunya's illustrations as a foundation to kind of build on. And I think it came out all right. There's some differences. One of the things that stands out the most for me is that the sculpt has abs. She's got a six-pack, and the illustration, she doesn't really have any definition to those muscles there. Her boobs are bigger in this final sculpt, and that's kind of been the way these have been going too. I think it's she's kind of got wider thighs also. Thighs seem a little bit bigger on the sculpt than they did initially in the illustration. So it seems like they kind of crank up the dial a little bit on everything. They seem a little bit more buxom after the process is complete. It's not the end of the world, but it makes me wonder how long this will keep going on, where you have Shunya drawing what is almost mild compared to what the product finally ends up being. I'm not sure where this eventually will lead, but at any rate, I think the results came out pretty good in this instance. They pretty much nailed the pose, though. As far as the illustration goes, I was kind of disappointed when they showed that this is what they went with. It would seem like the process at this point is that Shunya maybe submits a few different versions of the character to them, and then they get to choose. We've seen bits of art from unused projects, or I should say bits of unused art from different statues that they made. The horror Bishoujo, the Freddy and Jason in particular, seemed like there was a lot of options for those. So it makes me wonder what other options may have been on the table at some point for She-Hulk. I was kind of disappointed when they showed this because she wasn't really interacting with anything, she was just posing. Posing's fine. It's kind of what they're all doing. All of the Bishoujo statues are kind of posing to some extent or another, so that's fine. But I was kind of hoping that maybe she would have displaying her strength somehow, you know, lifting a barbell or a car, or doing something that only a She-Hulk could do, not just posing. But that's alright. It came out alright. I think it's not as dynamic as She-Hulk has the potential to be, but I think it came out pretty good all the same. So, and jump into the face sculpt. So there was some conversations that happened on Facebook when Koto released the initial sculpt, the pictures of the original sculpt of her face. A lot of people didn't like it. It took me a minute to realize what about it I didn't like. At first I thought it was great. I was just really excited that they were doing a She-Hulk. But I was reading the comments, and the things that people were saying made a lot of sense to me, which was that her eyes seemed too big, and that they were too wide and too big, and it made her seem childlike, kind of too young looking. And she had some pretty exaggerated cheeks, especially compared to Shunya's drawing. And now that I have her in hand, it seems like they probably never changed the sculpt. I think all the difference between the first version and the one we have ended up here with is the paint. I think it's all paint work. I don't think they ever changed the sculpt. The original had some brighter green skin and some brighter highlights. This one's got a little more muted highlights, and the skin tone's much darker. And they also changed kind of where the eyelashes are situated on her face and where the paint is around her eyelids, and I think that changes the shape of them a little bit. It's subtle, but it makes a difference. She's actually a little bit lighter than I would have thought she'd be. This has been the way Koto's done things since the beginning, where if a character has any kind of skin tone to them other than just kind of white, they tend to be kind of pale. The Mystique figure was like that, the Storm figures like that, the Poison Ivy figures like that. I'll do a comparison with Poison Ivy for skin tone in a minute, but this is closer to Poison Ivy than I thought it would have been. She does have some dark spots, and they added some shading to her paint that kind of gives her muscles some dimension, which is important because there's not a ton of it's not a ton of detail on this figure. It's just her and her pretty simple costume. There's a lot of detail in her hair, though. It seems like they really went all out on her hair. Her hair looks great. You can see there's a lot of detail in the sculpt. It's pretty intricate. Yeah, it looks good. They also, let's see if I can lighten it up a little bit, get an idea of the different tones that they use in the hair. There's some highlights here and there. There's no translucent plastic here, at least as best I can tell. It doesn't look like there's any part of it that's translucent. They kind of went away from that with Batwoman, and I thought her hair came out great. And seems like they kind of went the same route with this. A couple differences though. One is that it's dark green hair, so there's not a big change in kind of like the color values. There is some though on the outsides, and it kind of gives it a good amount of depth. It almost seems like it's transparent plastic, but it's not. It's just painted really well. Another difference is that they've added some kind of metallic flecks in there, kind of like glitter almost. Very fine glitter, it looks like, in her hair. I don't think they've done that before. If they have, I can't think of it. I think that's a first, but that's interesting. But I think it helps give it a little more depth. Looks good though. I think they did a really good job on her hair. Ooh, just a little too bright there. I think they did a really good job sculpting her muscles though. Her arms in particular. Everything there looks pretty good. Not too crazy. She looks very She-Hulk-ish to me. She's got big muscles, but they're not, she's not huge and bulging like Hulk is. They're pretty lean and well-defined. Six-pack there is pretty much the same. Not quite as drastic as the Jason statue's abs. These are a little bit more subtle, so they look good. Another spot that's been shaded. If I turn it down here, I think you might be able to see the shading a little better. The brightness. Turn it down. Sort of. The paint's kind of a pearlescent white. It's, I don't want to say exactly pearlescent, but it's definitely, maybe it is. But there's definitely some kind of a metallic aspect there too, where you kind of see it shimmering a little bit. All right, the purple doesn't really have any of that kind of shimmering, pearlescent quality to it. It's got shading in it, just like the rest of it, but seems like these are definitely meant to be two different textures. Same with her gloves. Gloves are the same as the purple here. Fingerless with the kind of cuffs. Not a ton of detail on these. They don't look like they're, you know, any kind of particular material or anything like that. Her shoes are a little different though. They, boots, they've got some stitching on them, which is interesting. Didn't really see that one coming. It looks pretty good. It's a nice little detail that they could have just as easily left out, but glad to see that they added that. She does come off of her base. Just kind of wiggle it there. She's got 2 or 3 pegs all together, and they kind of are in a kind of combination there. Little detail there on the bottom of her boots. And she's sculpted very well, I must say. I like that. She's got some pretty wide hips on her. That's not always what we get out of Bishoujo, but she came out pretty good, as far as the paint is good overall everywhere. I didn't have any real problems with mine. No errors per se. A couple of little spots here and there. There's one, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get these to show up on the camera. You can't really see it. There's a touch-up little spot right there, right in the dead center of her crotch. Can't really see it on camera though. It's very small, not a big deal at all. Lately I've been getting statues with black little specks here and there on their skin in various places, and she doesn't seem to have any. Oops. So that's good. I did notice that there's a little bit of glue. I don't know if you want to call it residue or what. The glue that they use sometimes can make the plastic hazy, and there's a little bit of that going on her neck. I don't think that's really showing up too well on camera either, but it's there just slightly. Her eyes look good. I think they're painted well. One of them, her left eye, it's not perfectly round. You can kind of see there the left edge. It's not rounded. It straightens out for some reason. I don't know if that's just mine or if that's how they all are. The whites of her eyes are just glossy plastic, and then the pupils are painted on them. It's usually how it's done, but not always. Put her back on the base. The base itself is it's nice for what it is. It's not too big, which I like. They didn't go overboard with this. But since she's standing just straight up, there wouldn't really be too big a reason for the base to be too big to support her. She just needs to kind of stand. But because with this peg coming off of her heel, she will not stand on without the base on her own feet. So, oops. Says the box says this is just broken street, and I guess that's obvious, but that is what it is. There's the bottom of that. It's a little bit like a Silox base. It's hollow with some kind of cross members to reinforce it. So, my cat's going bonkers. Might mean that it's time to wrap this video up, but I can't do that until we do some size comparisons, so let's do that. Okay, so She-Hulk is big. And so Miss Marvel here has been the biggest Bishoujo maiden for a while, and she's so much bigger that like no other Bishoujo were really coming close for a long time. She is taller than She-Hulk still, but I think that really has more to do with the base. If they were standing on their heels, standing back to back, they'd be very close. I can't really say who would be taller here, but She-Hulk would be probably taller. Hard to say. So this should give you an idea, if you have Miss Marvel, just how big She-Hulk is. If you don't, you may not. Here's Jubilee, is one of the newer Marvel Bishoujo, and you can tell quite a big difference in height. Jubilee is on the smaller side though. She's probably the smallest of the Marvel Bishoujo. yeah, she definitely seems like she's the smallest. I'm looking at the other ones, and it seems like Jubilee's probably the smallest. So it also made me realize how big Jury is. Jury is from the Street Fighter line, obviously, and she sizes up pretty well with She-Hulk. She also sizes up pretty good with Miss Marvel, which I don't think I didn't do that size comparison in my Jury review. But here's the three of them standing pretty much right evenly, and Jury is almost as tall with her hair sticking up as Miss Marvel, maybe a little taller. So that's interesting. I didn't really realize that. But She-Hulk looks about right. But I think She-Hulk should be the biggest, honestly. She's She-Hulk, for crying out loud. As far as her color goes, here she is with Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy is on the paler side, so it should give you an idea if you have Poison Ivy. Try to mess with the light here a little bit so you can get an idea. Yeah. So Poison Ivy is a little bit more closer to how Bishoujo have been sized for the majority of the time. And I don't know, maybe probably will continue to be. So She-Hulk considerably bigger. She looks really good. I think she's going to look great sitting on the shelf with the other Bishoujo around. She's definitely a standout. That green skin and the pose, and the fact that she's She-Hulk. So pretty happy about this one. I don't know. There's some people I know that don't like, muscular women. I know some people didn't like the Cammy figure. As far as Cammy goes, Cammy actually has more striated legs. Thank you. Than She-Hulk. She-Hulk's curvier for sure. You can see there. I mean, it's quite an exaggerated hip there. But Cammy is more striated than She-Hulk, and She-Hulk, some of her muscles, the details kind of hiding behind her hair a little bit, which is unfortunate, but you can still see plenty. So she's definitely ripped, no doubt about that. So if that's not your thing, then maybe you take a pass on She-Hulk, but that's probably a no-brainer. If you don't like muscular women, you probably have never liked She-Hulk. So there she be. Thanks for watching. I've got reviews for for these three. Not her yet. That's probably coming soon. But check out my channel. Check out the other Bishoujo reviews. I got plenty. And I'm not sure who's coming next. Honestly, I can't keep track anymore. But looking forward to all the good stuff making its way. I'm sure there's going to be more announcements at Comic-Con. They did announce a female Stormtrooper, and that's interesting. That'll be the next in the Star Wars line. So, just a quick update about me and my channel. I planned on doing a little more reviews than I have done lately. I lost my external hard drive, and I also lost the jailbreaks on my phone, and those two coinciding hasn't really been doing me any favors, so it's kind of slowed me down a little bit, but that should be resolved enough that I can do reviews at a normal rate soon. And so hopefully that'll be sooner than later. Also, I got the Facebook page up and running for the most part. Hasn't been very popular, but feel free to check that out. Facebook.com/HieroJux reviews. I'll put the link in, you'll be able to find it. And that'll do it for now. Thanks for checking me out. Check out the other videos. Thumbs up, subscribe, leave me a comment, and I'll see you on the next one.